You're listening to the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast with me, Maury Morgan.
Ladies and gentlemen, your next comedian.
Shouldn't drink on an empty head, you know that, don't you?
That is the shittiest heckle I have ever heard in my life.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
What's a bucket list?
You have dangerously underprepared yourself for the shit that is about to get real.
At times, the universe can send out subtle signals that help guide our life's journey. That's not what Urzilla Carlson was thinking, standing in her underwear and huddled with co-workers in a locked office bathroom after an armed robbery in her home country of South Africa. The universe was shaking and slapping her, screaming, "Get the hell out of here!" Thankfully for her future fans, Urzilla did just that, immigrating to New Zealand before embarking on an award-winning comedy career, a career that would see her win New Zealand Comedy Guild Awards for Best Female Comedian in 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014 and 2016. You don't ask about 2015. In this School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast interview, South African-born, New Zealand resident and celebrity on Australian TV, Urzilla Carlson, shares her inner mantra, fake contracts and putting your balls against the wall if you want to make it in stand-up comedy, which is a perfect segue to the upcoming stand-up comedy course on July 23 to 27 in Melbourne with guest comedians Dave O'Neill and Mayumi Nabetsu. So do as Urzilla says and bring us your balls. And with that, here's the hilarious Urzilla Carlson. Good morning, Urzilla.
Hi, Maury. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. You are in Auckland today, I believe.
I am. It's raining, but it's not cold.
Oh, well, I'm in Melbourne, so I can relate. And you're almost, you spent a fair bit of time in Melbourne.
Yes. I reckon all up, I'd be spending about between 4 and 6 months a year in Australia now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. In and out, in and out. I'm a frequent flyer now.
Yeah, I can imagine. Your accent must be getting a bashing.
Yeah, no, I've got this hybrid thing going on. I always say it depends on how much booze you've got in me as to which way it leans.
Yeah, I can understand that. I can stand up. So this is a stand-up comedy podcast.
Yeah.
People who listen to this podcast are interested in how you got started, you know, what were some of the influences in your life and so on. And I've been doing quite a bit of research on you and, wow, you are a psychologist's dream in terms of stand-up comedy. I mean, we'll get into some of the particular issues later on in this call. But I believe you started in 2008, and it was all part of a office farewell party.
Yeah, it was your classic case of peer pressure, really.
Yeah.
I started on St. Patrick's Day in 2008. I worked in advertising before, and I worked for a company called Ogilvy.
Yep.
And on the last day, because we used to work in these pods, you know, where we had a creative and a graphic designer and a copywriter and everything, and they'd always go, "You have to go do stand-up," and I go, "No, thanks." Mm-hmm. And then on the last day, this guy that was always pushing for the stand-up, Leon, he gave me this fake contract. It was my actual card, and they all signed it. And then I had to sign the fake contract. And he had already booked me in to go to an open mic spot and book tables, seats for 70 of them to go and watch on the Monday. This was the Friday. And I thought, I hadn't been in the country for very long. I hadn't been in New Zealand for like 2 years from South Africa, and I didn't want to look like a dick.
Yeah.
So I signed the contract, and I went along on the Monday. I did my 5 minutes. It was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. I thought I was going to break the mic stand in half, but they're actually pretty strong. And then I finished up, we had a few drinks, and then the next day I got a call from the owner of the club to say that I'm through to the next round. And what we didn't know, that it was part of Raw Quest, where they look for new talent.
Yeah, right.
And I made it to the next round, and I said to the guy, "Oh, no thanks, I'm not, that was just a work thing. I'm already nailing life. I'm not into comedy." To me, I've ticked comedy off the list, I never have to do it again.
The bucket list, yeah.
Yeah. I go, give it to someone that's actually interested in comedy that wants to make it into a thing. And he goes, "But you were really good." Everyone was laughing. I said, "Mate, I don't know how to break this to you, but everyone was laughing because I knew 70 people in your audience last night."
Yeah, right.
And he said to me, "I was in the audience. I laughed. I don't know you." And I went, actually, all right. And then I don't believe in missing opportunities. So he said to me, "You should you should come back and try it again and see how it goes, and don't bring anyone. And I thought, all right, I'll do that. So I wrote the new 5 minutes, because back then I thought that's what you did. Every time you go on stage, you have new material.
Yeah, right.
Now I know better. And then I went back. I didn't tell a soul. I did it again the next week, and then I made it through again. But by then I was hooked. It didn't matter whether or not I won, or I knew I was going to stick to comedy, because that rush just got into my soul, really. And I was like, I need to do this more. And, yeah, people kept booking me for gigs, so...
Wow. And if I go back a bit, you alluded to it in that little story there. There's no greater waste of time than regret. Yeah. This is a mantra that you live by since, I believe, high school that your teacher told you this?
Yeah.
And was it that particular sentence or that mantra that made you go back?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was in high school, and I was a bit of a handful. And one of my teachers, because I was sort of, I guess... I did well at school, but I sort of had a bit of an attitude problem, that just hormones buzzing. And if you think of a nightmare teenager, that was sort of me. And just a bit sort of leaning more towards the aggressive, experimental side of teenager. And one of my teachers said to me one day as I walked out of class with a bit of an attitude, she said, just remember one thing, there's no greater waste of time than regret. And it's sort of, I could almost hear my penny drop, And I thought, wow, that's actually quite powerful. Like, you can literally not do anything about it once it's done.
Yeah.
But try and live a life where you don't need to regret anything. I made that decision that year, and I sort of, I try and seize every opportunity that comes my way, time permitting, because I say yes to everything, so I don't have a lot of spare time, but I'm getting better at it now that I'm in my 40s. I'm sort of settling more where I can say, no, I can't do it. I need to stay home with my kids.
Right. Well, now you can tick off being on the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast. So,
there we go. And that was one of the top ones too.
It was. Thanks. Yeah, Leon didn't even have to make a fake contract. So, beautiful. Now, you've gone from strength to strength in New Zealand. Obviously you're a rascal in South Africa, but in New Zealand you kind of found your place. And I'm going to throw a couple of dates at you. 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2016. These are the dates that you won Best Female Comedian in New Zealand for the Comedy Guild Awards. Firstly, what happened in 2015? and second of all, are you the Ed Sheeran of female comedy in New Zealand? You seem to dominate everything.
Yeah, I must be. My friend won in 2015, Justine. Oh. So, sort of you have to share around.
Did you help her over? Did you sort of do your shoelace up at the finishing line and let her go over?
No, it's pretty strong. I said the other day, because somebody else asked me what happened in 2015, and I said, well, I won People's Choice Award, so I thought I better not be greedy.
Oh, yeah.
Pass it along. No, I'm blown away every time, because I always think it's, comedy is not a competition, and you can't really, whenever I have the opportunity to opt out of an award, like when you enter or when you apply for a festival, you can tick if you want judges to come to your show, and I always say no thanks. I don't want to be nominated for anything, because I don't think you can compete. You look at the different types of comics you get, and how, comedy is so strong, number one, at the moment, in Australia and in New Zealand. And, I wouldn't want to go up against anyone and go, well, I'm going to compete with you for an award. I think, it's so subjective, and what people like about me, they might absolutely hate in someone else, So, but when you just get something random that wasn't, you couldn't opt in or out of, and you just get awarded this thing, then, it's nice to get it, but I still think it's a bit silly to have competition in comedy.
It's not like you're racing someone. It's not like it's a number of jokes per minute, right? and you're squeezing in 15 or something, and she manages to get 16. Yeah.
Yeah. There's not a joyometer. There's not a joyometer at the end of the at the end of the night, they go, well, you got
Right,
75% joy out of that audience and someone else got 42. You know, as long as your audience leave and they're happy and they won't mind to see you again, that's a win.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Well, that leads me to, perhaps we'll go back a step to the very first time you got paid to make people enjoy themselves. And we are talking about comedy here. I believe it was, you got $40.
Yeah.
Where was it? Tell us about that experience.
I was gigging at the Classic, which is the only dedicated comedy club in New Zealand, and it's in Auckland on Queen Street. And it's like an institution. That's sort of where every pro comic in New Zealand has gone through the Classic. And Scotty that owns it, he's sort of, it's almost like he's the headmaster. You know, you sort of work your way through the ranks, if you will.
Yeah.
And every night is a different rank. And then one night I got home and I said because before I left the club, they said, don't forget to sign for your money. And I went, what? Because up until this point, it was just a great hobby and I really enjoyed it. I was still working full-time in advertising and I signed and I did like 7 minutes and they gave me $40 and I couldn't believe it. I got home and I said to my wife, who's then my girlfriend, I go, look at this shit. And I had the $220 and we were just lying on the bed looking at the $220. I go, can you believe it? Someone just paid me to talk shit for 7 minutes. We couldn't believe it. I go, oh my God, this is amazing. So much money for 7 minutes.
Yeah, definitely.
And we were just absolutely blown away. It was great.
Oh, that's amazing. So from that, and then what year was that? Sorry.
That would have been 2008.
2008, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so similar time when you just started off and you got straight into doing some live gigs and getting paid for them. That's amazing. Now, we in Australia know you on TV. We know you, of course, through the Melbourne International Comedy Festival as well, but perhaps more recently with Have You Been Paying Attention? ?
Yeah.
Now, I think there's a bit of a handicap for you because you don't live in Australia full time, although you did say you spend many, many months here. Yeah. How do you pay attention to Australian media? Is it just on the Qantas flights?
No, you know what? Thank God we live in the time and the era that we live in. And I've got all the newspaper apps and all the news apps on my phone.
Yep.
And every morning I read, I'm like an old politician. I read every newspaper in Australia and I watch, news clips.
Yep.
From Channel 10 and I sort of just stay on top of what's going on in Australia. And also I'm lucky I've got 5,000 Facebook friends and half of them I'd say is Australian.
Yeah, right.
So when they, when there's a story that breaks or something that's touching or whatever, or political stuff, people always share it and they go, look at this shit, and you go, yes, let me have a look at this, Because if it's something important then people talk about it and then you can kind of guarantee they'll touch on it. But I mean, a lot of the stuff, I don't know if you've seen me on it, I don't necessarily win. I kind of make a lot of stuff up, whatever I think is going on.
Well, you've already made it clear that you're not in it for the competition, right? You're just after there to make us laugh. And you've made me laugh, definitely. I do like the highlights, the best of, when they focus on individual panellists on that show.
Yeah.
And you are very funny. Now, well, how is it that so obviously South African, moved over. Now, let me ask the question, because I know the story, but people who don't know the story need to hear it. It is hilarious, shockingly hilarious. What was it that made you decide to leave South Africa and move to New Zealand?
When you go to South Africa or you talk to other South Africans, a lot of businesses have so much security, they sort of lock the gates when you get in and, it stays locked all day till you go home tonight. But I used to work for the newspaper, so the very nature of our business is the people.
Yeah.
So we always had the doors open, and one morning at 7 o'clock, I'd go in early. I was the production manager, and we got robbed. 4 guys with AK-47s came in, made us all lie down, steal all of our phones and our car keys. They took 2 of the cars, and then they stripped us all in our undies and put us in the bathroom, lock us in the bathroom so nobody could chase after them. And we were in there for about 35 minutes or so before someone came and unlocked the door. And as I was standing in that bathroom looking around, I thought, I can't live in this country. I have to leave, Like, people we're standing in a bathroom all in our undies, and people are going, well, thank God nobody got hurt. And yeah, there should be more to life to be shot, for your cell phone and your wallet. So I just decided I have to go. And the next day, there was an ad actually in our paper from Immigration New Zealand, and it said, want to immigrate, why not New Zealand? And I thought, I can't think of one reason why not. And 3 months after I saw that ad, I was on my way to New Zealand.
Yeah, right. There you go. I like how you said that the only reason you wouldn't chase men with AK-47 is because you're in your underwear. Like you'd be making a bad fashion statement. But the guns thing wasn't an issue. It's just I'd be embarrassed.
No. It was wash day in my house.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's an amazing immigration story. I mean, in many ways, you fled violence. It's a very relevant story to the politics that's going on in this part of the world these days, or politicking, I should say. Yeah, and it's shocking. But again, if that hadn't happened, and if Leon hadn't have organised that party in New Zealand, you wouldn't be on the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast. Well, that's what I said. Oh, that's amazing. Now, your comedy is very personal, as a lot of comedians are very personal about their own lives. You talk about, as you said, I've heard the story about your undies in the bathroom, and you talk about being a lesbian or being a lesbitarian, which sounds like you went to uni to get it. You've got a wife, you've got kids, and you talk about your weight. So it's all very personal. And how do you continually develop new material about yourself?
I think in the beginning when I just started, like, it was all about me, and then later I learned how to sort of share the jokes around, and I would talk about my partner, and now it's the kids and the family get into it, and it sort of grows and grows the more. But now this latest show that I just wrote is sort of nothing is about me, or very little in it is about me.
Yep.
And I think the more you write and the longer you do it, it's like any job, then you sort of get more confident and you sort of branch out a bit more. And now I sort of lean more towards just the observational stuff and stuff that I see happening, or, that has happened. Like, there's some stuff that I go, this is what has happened, or what I've seen happen. But you know what? Every year I go, I have nothing left. There's no more funny in the world. Because I've written 9 solo shows.
Yeah.
So that's 9 out. And I'm like, there's nothing else that's funny to me. And then before the end of that festival, I start thinking about the next show, because then stuff happens. And thank God there's so much happening in the world. There's such a rich vein just in American politics at the moment. Not that I'm a political comic, but just, commenting on human behavior. Everything from, how people vote to anti-vaxxing to there's so much going on that if you just walk around with a pen, you'll take notes all day. Yeah,
right. Okay, well, that's good. And you said you're on tour at the moment. Studies have shown, is that the name of the tour that you're doing in New Zealand?
Yes, yeah, it's my new show.
How's that going?
Yeah, really well.
How far into that are you?
I'm in the middle of it. It's 2 weeks in, and I've done some shows on the South Island, some shows on the North Island, and then on Thursday I head back to the South Island for 4 days, and then to Melbourne again. And see, that's the beauty of the fact that Australia is so close. So I'm in the middle of a tour, and I only tour weekends, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yep.
And then on Sunday I quickly pop over to Melbourne, and I do Have You Been Paying Attention? Yep. And then I fly back on Monday and carry on with my tour over here without missing a beat.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Because everyone's like, oh, I can't, you live in New Zealand. I was like, it's 3-hour flight.
Yeah.
It's shorter than some domestic flights inside Australia.
Well, yeah, if you drive from the suburbs into Melbourne CBD, it's probably shorter with the traffic jams.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I get a meal in a movie.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly, and for some frequent fly points. So you're going to be in Sydney, aside from New Zealand. So those of the listeners listening from New Zealand, you're all over New Zealand, which is great. So I'm looking at your website, UrzilaCarlson.com, and you're all over New Zealand. You've got a tour in Sydney, and you're going to Edinburgh as well, I believe.
Yes. I had to put on that extra show in Sydney because people were just going mental and buying tickets. So I sold out the run, and then that was the only time I could fit in to do an extra show.
Oh, that's good news.
I know, it's a great problem. And then I go to Edinburgh this year for the first time, because I've been so busy just, doing Australia and New Zealand that I haven't had a chance to go to Edinburgh. And in my mind, I went, I probably won't ever go because I see no benefit because I'm not trying to crack into the UK market. I don't want to commute between New Zealand and the UK, not with 2 kids and I'm in my 40s and I've got a dog. I'm pretty sick.
Yeah.
But then I thought, every time I talk to any promoter or any other comic, they always go, have you done Edinburgh? So I'm basically going to do Edinburgh so I can say to people, yes, I have. Now stop asking.
Exactly. And that no regrets mantra that keeps biting you in the bum, right?
Yeah, exactly that.
That's excellent. As a comedian, what advice would you give to up-and-comers that are starting out in the comedy scene?
I always say to people, because a lot of people will contact me and go, I really want to do comedy. I'm talking to a woman this morning, actually, via email about this very thing. She goes, I really want to do comedy for the past 20 years. That's all I want to do. And I always say, do it. Just get into it. Just put your balls against the wall and do it. And stick with it. It is tough. Like my first couple of gigs, I was on such a high. And then for the next 2 years, I just really sucked. But you sort of just, you just have to keep at it. Nobody even starts as packing in a warehouse. You're not very fast initially. But after a few months, you're like so fast, your hands just know the way, it's like your soul knows what to do. Yeah. So stick with it. And when you write material, when you just start out, it's sort of an easy one to go for real filth because it always gets a laugh. But there's a huge difference between ha-ha and ho-ho. To be able to hear that is very important. So I always say when you write material, write it in such a way that your mum or someone else's mum won't be offended by it. Yeah. And then because people, you always get these rookies that'll do rape jokes or real vulgar shit and they go, Louis C.K. does it. And you go, Louis C.K. is a genius. You're an idiot.
Yeah, that's right.
Wait till you've done 20,000 gigs and then you try and do, like they have if you talk Louis C.K. or like an absolute genius, you see how they work the crowd. They can take them to the darkest pits of comedy and bring them back and make the audience thankful for taking them, Yeah. So stay bland almost till you know what you're doing and then find your own voice.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's almost like learning how to drive where you're ignorant of your incompetence.
That's a great way to look at it,
Yeah, you're actually quite dangerous. Well, that's amazing. Now, I was going to ask if someone wants to book you or wants, for a big event, obviously, because you're an A-list stand-up comedian. How would they get in contact? But I'm looking at your tour dates. You don't seem to have a break until around late October.
Yeah. Well, they can always my email and my snail mail address is all on my website, and my manager's email is on there too. So.
Perfect.
There's several ways for people to get in touch.
Okay, great. So, but just after October, it looks like
21st
of October.
I don't understand when you get big corporate clients like massive banks or whatever, and they've got a big awards night, say for instance, in 4 days' time, and then they try and book an MC, and I'm like, are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
Go, would you be able to do Thursday? And I'm like, if you mean in 2019, yeah.
Oh yeah, or unless you, of course, triple your prices, and then
I don't bump small gigs for the big gigs.
Oh, that's good.
If I've confirmed a gig, I've confirmed it. Whether it's a $40 gig or a $10,000 gig, hashtag I don't get many of those. But if I don't bump the small gigs for a big gig.
Well, Urzila, this has been a really enjoyable podcast. Not that the other interviews I've done are not enjoyable, but I've actually thoroughly enjoyed this.
It's all right, Maury. You can have favourites. I'll do favourites.
Yeah, all right. You are my favourite currently as well. So I do appreciate the stories and the openness. And those people listening to this podcast, I hope you got something out of it.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you very much for your day. Do you have something on tonight? Are you performing tonight? Was it a quiet one?
No, I'm actually rarely. I've got a night off, so I don't know what's going to happen tonight.
You have to read some news and catch up with Australian politics. So you ready for the show?
I know. Yeah, man.
Well, thank you, Urzila. Thank you very much for your time there in Auckland. And I'll see you when you're in town. I believe you'll be in Melbourne at the Yarraville, one of the Yarraville clubs. So I'll definitely get along to see you there.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Urzila.
No.
Bye.
Bye.